This video is going over finding functions of equations day 2. It's the second day of practice that we have in our class. First off, when you're looking at this, it says look at the pattern -3, -6, -9, -12, and -15, and it asks you to find the function. Well, first off, these numbers right here are all the values. See, that's -3, -6, -9, move this down here, -12, and -15. Well, the term number, this is the first term, the second term, the third, fourth, so I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, if I continue to go down here, there's my x right there. Now, remember that step number 1, oh, that's not step number 1, that's the value. Let me go back up here for a second. This is my, term number is my x, value is my y. My first step is this right here where it's delta y, where I have y2 minus y1. So I need to find the difference between these two. I'm getting more negative, so I'm going to subtract 3 off from each side. Right here, I'm going to subtract 3. Down here, subtract 3. And again, subtract 3. Then the second step is to go up here and to do delta x, the change in x. I add 1, add 1, add 1, add 1. Now that's all fine, but you want to go here to step 3. This is the important one right here because this is your coefficient. Remember, delta y over delta x is your coefficient. It's also called your rate of change. So here, when we go, we take this number, delta y, make sure you use delta y over the x number, which is 1. So we get -3. The next one, same thing, we got -3 over 1, which is -3. Again, they're the same all the way down. Now remember, we talked about if these right here are all the same, it means that this is going to be linear. And in the word linear is the word line, meaning that these ordered pairs will give you a straight line. So the first thing you do is you go up here, let's see, and we're going to put in there the coefficient. So I'm going to put -3 all the way down this first column. Then next to it, I'm going to put the term number. I'm going to put the x. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the x. Now I have to try and find the constant because we have to add or subtract something to find the constant. Well, the first thing you do, see, this is where the most mistakes happen, is because people can get to this point, but then they get confused and lost. When you multiply these two together, that gives you -3. What do you need to do to -3 to get to this y value? Well, that is -3. Well, you don't really need to do anything, so you add 0. So my constant is 0. Now, I know that we're not adding anything. See, look, -3 times 3 is -9. -3 times 4 is -12. So right here, I can write it this way, or what you're really going to see is just -3x. Now, do we remember from the other day what this was called? This right here is called the rule. And to remind you, well, let's see, let me try and move this down here. I need to open up my, oh, let's see here. I got lots of things going on my computer here. I'm opening up my calculator, slowly but surely. Right here. Now we want to go in there. Let's see here. Let me pull back up my video or my smartboard file here. We're going to put in there -3x. We're going to press second graph. Now remember, we're looking to see, let me go back to the beginning. And I'm looking for these points, 1, -3, 1, -3, 2, -6, 3, negative 9. That means that I am correct. So now, let's see, I can go, let's see, got a lot of things going on my desk right here. I know you can't see that. Let's see here. Right here, as I pull up my calculator, and I click, I'm trying to get my pen to work here. All right, here we go. There we go. Now my function, f, doesn't want to work here. Whoop. F of x equals, well, I don't know why my pen doesn't want to work here, equals negative 3x. My rate of change is the same as my coefficient, which is negative 3. My constant is that number at the end, which is 0. Now, down here, it says what would be the term number. Okay, here's what you need to do. Term number is the x, value is the y. So I would go in here, x and y, and I would put in there the y number, which is 18. And now you want to go in the calculator, and you're going to go and look and see where y is positive 18. So I'm going to go back, let's go back up here. Let's go look for positive 18. Oh, nope, I just went over here. And my answer is negative 6. Make sure that you're writing them in the right column. The other way that I can do this is negative 3x equals 18. Well, if you divide by negative 3 right here, I get x equals negative 6. The next one, what is the range? Remember, range is y when the domain is x, when the x is 5. So I have x then y. My domain is 5. So now I'll go on my calculator, go and look and find where x is 5. And what is my y number? It is negative 15. To do this by hand, you would take negative 3 times x, well, x is 5. That gives you negative 15. The next question says, what is the dependent variable? We should remember whenever we have dependent is the y. If you look back up here in your table, let's see here, get my pen to work. My y, right here, see, it says the value. Okay, so dependent is the y, which is the value. Now let's go to the next one. Right here, you're going to want to write this table down. And you notice we don't have any of the other columns, but we're still going to do the same process. Step number 1 is to do delta y. The change in y right here, I'm adding 1, add 2, add 2, add 1. Step 2 is to do delta x. The change in x right here, plus 2, plus 4, plus 4, plus 2. You notice these are not the same, but that's okay, because step 3 is to take delta y divided by delta x. So I start here and I have 1, that's delta y, divided by 2. This is 1/2. And if you can put it in there and get a decimal and get 0.5. Then I have 2 divided by the number over here, which is 4. It's very important to make sure you put delta y on top, which gives you 0.5 or 1/2, whichever way you want to do it. Now, since my number's right here, remember, what are these numbers called? It's called my coefficient, also called my rate of change. Since they are the same, this is linear. Linear means that if I graph these points, then I'm going to get a straight line. So the first thing that goes up here in my table is my coefficient. Now you can use 1/2 or you can use 0.5. I'm going to use 1/2. It's better actually right now to use a fraction because of what we're going to be doing later on with it. So I've got 1/2. Next, I put next to it my term number, which is my x. Remember, x and y So I'm going to put 0, 2, 6, 10, 12, and x. Now, I love 0 because 0 is so much easier. I take anything times 0 is 0. What do you have to do to 0 to get to the y number right here? Well, you need to add 3. Remember, you're either adding or subtracting to find your constant. Okay, so now 1/2 times 2, that's 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. So I think my constant is plus 3. Now as I go down here, before you move on, you want to make sure that you go into the calculator and put in there what you think your rule is. The rule is this right here, remember? Okay? So right here, this is my rule. And I'm going to go up here and I put in there 1/2 x plus 3. Then I'm going to press second graph. And you want to look and see and make sure that you have these same numbers in your table that they're in your calculator. 0, 3. Oh, where'd it go? There we go. 0, 3, 2, 4, and so on. And as soon as you find out that you have it correct, you should be answering these other questions. So as you look at these, I have my rule. First off, how do you write it as a function? Well, you can write it as f of x equals 1/2 x plus 3. You can also write it as y equals 1/2 x plus 3. Remember, rate of change is the same as saying coefficient. It's the same as saying delta y over delta x. That number is 1/2. My constant is right here. It is plus 3. Now, this one says what is the range of the function. What letter is range? Range is the y. So as I look at this for the range, I'm going to go up here. I'm going to look for my y numbers. What do I have listed? It has 3, 4, 6, 8, and 9. So I'm going to go down here. I have 3, 4, 6, 8, and 9. The next question says what is the independent variable? Independent, you need to remember, is the x. Well, what is that that's up there with the x? It is the term number. So it is the x, but it is the term number. Now the next question down here says what would be the term number, what would be the x when the y is 17, when the value is 17.5. So I'm going to put in here, I've always built my table, and I put in here 17.5. So now as I go up here, I'm going to move this over. I already have my equation in there. I'm going to go and look and see where y is 17.5. There's no quick way to do it other than just looking in the table and scrolling up and down. So right here, it's 29. Now, to do this by hand, you would take, I got to remember my equation here, 1/3, or I'm sorry, 1/2 x plus 3, and you set it equal to the term number, which is, or not the term number, I'm sorry, to the value, which is the y, 17.5, and you can solve from here. That's how you would do it by hand. Now, when you look at this one, you see that you have points that are just graphed. Okay, and you want to find the equation of this line right here that connects all these dots. Well, what you're going to do, you're going to come up here and you're going to put an x and a y, and you're going to find these ordered pairs. So here, -1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This point is -1, -6. This point here is 0, -2. Right here, over 1 up to 1, 2. This point up here, over 1, 2, 3. And up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's 3, 10. Remember, I have x, then y. So I'll start, and it doesn't matter what order actually you put them in. I'm going to start down here, though. I'm putting -1, 0, 1, and 3. Well, I'm getting that from -1, 0, 1, and 3. Then you're going to want to put in the x's. I'm sorry, the y's. Woo. All right, the y's are -6. Next is -2. Then you have 2. Then you have this one up here, which is 10. Now, I normally always go in and I add an x in there because I know that I'm going to put my rule in that bottom category, or in that bottom spot right down there. So the first step, remember that we say all the time, is to find delta y, the change in y. So right here, if you forgot how to do that, you can go in your calculator, put in there the bottom number, -2, minus the top number, -6, and press enter. It gives you 4. Remember, you can always find your deltas that way. So -2 to 2 is +4. Now from 2 to 10, that's +8. That's fine. This is not, I'm not worried about this right now. The second step is to do delta x. The change in x right here, +1, +1, +2. Step 3, and I don't seem to have a lot of room here over here, is delta y divided by delta x. See, the mistake is people normally come over here and they put these x's over the y's. Make sure you do the y over the x. So I've got 4 over 1, which is 4. Well, that's the same here. 4 divided by 1. This time I have 8 divided by 2. Okay, well look, both of them are 4. That means that they are the same. That means that my line is going to be linear. Well, okay, see, look, this is what I mean by linear. See right here? Let's see if I can get my line thingy here. Look, it's linear. I should be able to see already it's linear because you see how this is making a straight line? That's all that having your coefficients being the same, that's all that it's saying, is that it makes it a straight line. So now remember, I've got coefficient. This is 4 all the way down. Okay. Next goes my variable, goes my x. Now I'm looking to add or subtract to find my constant. Okay, I don't like, I mean, you can do it. You can deal with the negatives if you want to. I don't like to do that. So I'm going to go down here. Wherever I find 0, if I find 0 on my x, that's my favorite spot. Because what's anything times 0? It's 0. What do you need to do to 0 to get to -2? Subtract 2. Well, let's test it here. I've got 4 times 1, which is 4. What do you need to do to 4 to get to 2? -2. It looks like my constant is -2. Remember, this right here is called the rule. Okay, now before we go on, remember you must check it in the calculator. Let me move this over. I'm going to go in here and put in there 4x -2 and press second graph. Okay, well, I'm way far, so let's go second window, put in there 0, second graph. I have -1, -6. Whoop, I missed it here. Let's go back up here. Woo! All right, there we go. 0, -2, 1, 2, and 3, 10. So now I know that I have my rule correct. Now let's go down and let's look at this right here. How do I write this as a function? I'm going to write f of x equals 4x -2, or you can write it as y equals 4x -2. What number is my coefficient? It's 4. The constant is -2. This question said, would the ordered pair 7, 26 fit this function? What it's saying is, if I put this in the calculator, if I go in here, let's see if I can move this over a little bit. Is 726 in here? 7, well, where'd my pen go? There we go. And 26. Yes, it is. You can justify by saying that you put the equation into y1 and look to see if it was in there. The other way is to justify, I can take 4 times x minus 2. Okay, so x is 7. So right here, if I do this, 4 times 7 is 28. 28 minus 2, that's 26. Okay, see, so it gives me 7 and 26, so that means that it does fit in my equation. Now, what about this right here? Well, let's look in the calculator again. Let's move this over. That's one way to do it. Whoop. All right, come on. There we go. I look down here. Is 9 and 38 in there? No. It says 9 and, oh, I missed it. What did it say? 9 and 34. So let's see here. Let me make this go away here. 9 and 34. To show it out by hand, to show your work, you would take 4 times x minus 2. X is 9. So let's go here. 4 times 9 is 36. 36 minus 2 is 34. So it does not match the 38 right there. Now, the next question says, is this a positive or negative relationship? Well, let's look up here. What's the line doing? From left to right, it's going up. So what kind of relationship is that? It is positive. Okay? The other way you're going to know it's positive is this. You can actually look at the equation. See how the coefficient right here is positive? If the coefficient is positive, your line is going to be positive. So now, looking at, let's just do a little recap. First off, 4x minus 2. What is this called? This is called the rule. What if I wanted to make it an equation or a function? I'd have to add an equal sign. So I have 4x minus 2, or I can write it as f of x equals 4x minus 2. Okay, now, what is this number called? That number is called the coefficient. What's another name for it? Another name would be, you could do delta y over delta x. Another name you will see is rate of change. What about this number right here? That number is called my constant. Now, a common mistake is saying that whatever number comes at the end is my constant. That's not what it is. The number that is with the variable, that is with the x, is my coefficient. The number that does not have a letter with it is the constant. Now, what is this letter right here called? That is the x, but what is that? That's the independent variable. It is also my term number. It is also my domain. We should know that the x means all three of these. F of x, y, whichever one of these. Okay, my y. This is my dependent variable. It is called my value when we have it in the table. It is also called my range. These vocabulary terms you need to make sure that you know.